Welcome to Music from the Circus. It's hard to think of Dave Stewart as anything other than one half of the Eurythmics, although he's been campaigning hard in recent years to bring us new acts under his own label, Anxious Records, not to mention overseeing his wife Siobhan's career in Shakespeare's Sister. His latest project is Vegas, where he teams up with Terry Hall of the Specials and Funboy 3 fame. Formed in 1977, the Specials were one of the bands to spearhead the two-tone scene with such punk reggae fusions as Too Much Too Young and Ghost Town. Since then, Terry has been pursuing the worthiest of careers in fatherhood. However, with the old adage, once a performer, always a performer, it was only a matter of time before these two groundbreaking men of pop were back in the hot seat. I'll leave it to you to decide. But don't forget our competition that runs throughout the program.
It feels good. I'm flying high again, spinning round and round again.
It's not really a flat, it's more like a sort of brain center of lots of different experiments. You know, we can actually make our own videos in there or print our own photographs, or we can do virtually anything to do with the pop music requirements within that one space.
I think I've lost a very nice part of me, and even though I'm only half the man I used to be, it feels good. I'm flying high again, spinning round and round again. I even like myself again.
Well, Terry and I were doing some experiments in France, in a little tiny converted guest house. And it was nothing to do with Vegas at the time. It was just experiments to do with songwriting and musical ideas. And just before Terry was about to leave to go to the airport, I remembered a lot of this music I'd been writing, which was all of a similar ilk. And I thought Terry would be a great voice on top of it. And I played him one, and he sang about 4 lines. And we both loved it, and then he had to go and catch a plane. The next day I called him, and he said, yeah, I know what you're going to say, you know. I'm thinking the same thing, that sounded like a really great project or a group.
We've both been in bands. This is what we do. And this is what we do. I don't understand the strange pairing. Dave's a musician, and I'm a singer, and singers and musicians get together.
One of the reasons I thought Terry would be perfect on top of this kind of music anyway is his such a dry delivery, and his lyrics have got such bittersweet twists about them. And it's something that I've always loved. I mean, it was something in Eurythmics that Annie and I always tried to get, was this bittersweet thing.
I'm either innocent or just plain stupid. What's the better? I'll regret it, but it feels good. Feels like I'm home again.
I decided just to raise my children, which seemed like a better thing to do than being in a silly group. But then I realised that I'd still like to do it, but it had to be perfect. Perfect for me, not for anybody else. And meeting Dave, Manu and Nulla seemed pretty close.
A lot of the music I was writing on a bus that was travelling through Europe, and the back end of a bus was made into a little sort of Aladdin's cave of electronic gadgetry. And along with Ula, who we'll meet later on, I was composing this kind of lilting travelling music on electronics, but we couldn't hear it as we were doing it. I was having to sing to Ula what I wanted, and Ula was programming it into a computer. And then when we got to the hotel room on a night time, we would play it back, and it started to become a great game. You know, this is a really exciting thing. It's a bit like taking photographs, and you can't see them till you get them developed. And that was the beginning of the writing process of the Vegas album. Of course, that all changed when I teamed up with Terry, and we ended up having, you know, an orchestra playing and all sorts of things.
He works very quickly, which I really wanted. I've been spending 2 years preparing a solo album, and I was going into my 3rd year, and I would have gone into my 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, you know. But it was good for me just to get a lot of things off my chest lyrically, really quickly, and we only spent 6 weeks doing it.
Love is a stranger in an open car to tempt you in and drive you far away. And I want you, and I want you, and I want you so it's an obsession. And I want you, and I want you, and I want you so it's an obsession. Love is a danger of a different kind. Take you away and leave you far behind. And love, love, love is a dangerous drug. You have to receive it and you still can't get enough of the stuff. Savage and it's cruel and it shines like destruction. Comes in like a flood and it seems like religion. It's noble and it's brutal, it distorts and deranges, and it pinches you up and you're left like a zombie.
Well, you know, obviously it was the most speeded up learning period of my life was the beginning of Eurythmics, when it was a period where I wanted to know everything about recording, everything about, you know, anything to do with a group and how that group or that project translated into film or onto the stage or in the studio, because I was tired of being manipulated by other people in other groups and being in the studio not knowing what's going on and having to take a producer's word for it.
Sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree? I travel the world and the 7 seas. Everybody's looking for something. Some of them want to use you. Some of them want to get used by you. Some of them want to abuse you. Some of them want to be abused.
In a way, Eurythmics were just passing comment on that all the time, from Sweet Dreams, which was totally about that, which is kind of saying, is this what our dreams are made of, all of this consumeristic overkill? All the way through the songs, you know, Here Comes the Rain Again, right to the end, you know, when we sang That's When the Day Goes Down. We were always just passing comment on how awful it was becoming, and how, in a way, the world of commerciality was kind of almost wiping the floor with any tiny piece of human individuality that there was left. In fact, I still feel that communities have been completely smashed to bits, and society is structured around little tiny consumeristic families who don't have any particular link with their neighbour or with the local shop or anything. It's just how many things can you buy in a day, and then go to sleep.
You gave me such a bad time. You tried to hurt me, but now I know.
Thorn in my side, you know that's all you ever were. A bundle of lies, you know that's all that it was worth. I should have known better, but I trusted you at first. I should have known better, but I got what I deserved. Ooh, 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 ooh.
It took me about 3 years to sort of unwind from, constant touring, putting out records, and being part of something that was so intense because, Annie and I lived together for 4 years before we formed the group. So I'm just starting to reap the benefits now, I think.
This place is coming like a ghost town. Bands won't play no more. Too much fighting on the dance floor.
I think the band got a bit too big for the sort of band it was. We were based in the West Midlands and we controlled our situation and we wrote about the things that affected us, but when suddenly we were touring Japan and places, things became irrelevant.
Do you remember the good old days before the ghost town? We danced and sang and the music played in any boom town.
This town is coming like a ghost town.
Why must the youth fight against themselves? Government leaving the youth on the shelf.
This place is coming like a ghost town.
No job to be found in this country.
Can't go on no more. The people getting angry.
Join us in part 2 as the lads talk about the joys of family life and we take a behind-the-scenes look at what makes Vegas tick. See you then.
innocent or just plain stupid? What's the better? I'll regret it, but it feels good. Feels like I'm home again. Feeling safe and sound again.
I like to sort of look after the kids, and I don't really want anybody else to do it, which means I don't really want to employ anybody to do it. I think it's important that they should be with their parents, because this is where they came from.
They just reaffirmed what I, imagined was true anyway, which is, the older you get, the less you know, really, and, babies and young children seem to have a grasp on everything, whereas we seem to grow further and further apart from it and spend the last years of our lives desperately trying to get back to the way we were before.
You should see me when you're not around. I'm a genius in this town. I'm a queen bee when the coast is clear. Now I know I don't need you, dear. So wave your hand like a magic man, disappear. Beat up car, like an old star. That's what you are. Na 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 na. Your history.
Siobhan has been a real strength and a real influence on how I feel as a person. She's made me realize that, as a person, the way I am is okay, fine to be like that, and not to always be inventing things to hide behind, and not always being a person who stays in the background because he's unsure of himself. I'm the kind of person who tends to take on a lot, take on organising or actually creating the environment that we're going to do something in. I like doing that, and I think Terry likes the fact that I like doing that, and it's always a surprise to him what's going on.
Got tired of being gifted and tormented. Signed, sealed, delivered, then resented. I think I've lost a very nice part of me. And even though I'm only half the man I used to be, it feels good. I'm flying high again, spinning round and round again.
It's more like a jigsaw puzzle. I mean, Terry has lots and lots of great one-liners and bits of four-liners and 8 lines, and I have bits of music like a jigsaw, and then we start working with the two things together, and in the end it's really hard to remember how we finished a song. Sometimes 2 days later we'll play it back and go, God, it sounds like a song, but it's a funny process, really. It's not like a group sort of jamming and la-la-la-ing a melody or something. It's like a jigsaw.
Feels like I'm swimming in a sea of beauty. Feels like I'm going round the bend. God defend me from my enemies. God defend me from my friends. 'Cause it feels good. I'm flying high.
So how close would the images be to me and Terry? Say if you were, you know, the little me and Terry that are going to run around inside the game?
We can now, both in our cartridge products and in the CD products, digitize you two and make it look like you. We've just launched a boxing product with Evander Holyfield, a bit of a different comparison, but what we have is digitized images of Evander beating people up. I mean, that's basically how the game works. And what you can actually do is, if you don't like Evander because he's not hot enough or not good enough, you can actually drop another head onto the body and change the color of the body and the color of the hair, so you can make your own Evander.
Pretty essential when it comes to us two.
Right.
Got tired of being gifted and tormented. Signed, sealed, delivered, then resented. I think I've lost a very nice part of me. And even though I'm only half the man I used to be, it feels good. I'm flying high again, spinning round and round again. I even like myself again. Exactly sure of what I'm after, but I won't be happy till I get it. I'm either innocent or just plain stupid. What's the better? I'll regret it, but it feels good. Feels like I'm home again. Like myself again, and it feels good. I'm flying high again, spinning round and round again. I'll never touch the ground again. Feels like I'm swimming in a sea of beauty. Feels like I'm going round the bend. God defend me from my enemies. God defend me from my friends. 'Cause it feels good. I'm flying high again, spinning round and round again. I even like myself again, and it feels good. I'm coming home again, feeling safe and sound again.
Well, that's all for Music from the Circus, but don't forget you can be one of 25 lucky people to get a copy of the Vegas album. All you have to do is call in and phones will be open all week. See you next time.
Thank you.